Thanks. Thanks for being with us for another week. It's been an exciting week as we think of the handover of the leadership on Lagos Hope there in Albania. Many ship leaders have been there as they've handed over the leadership from Randy Graby and Kin to Edward David, who's been with OM a long time, lots of experience. I know he'll appreciate our prayers as he carries that responsibility. We also know the new ship, Doulas Hope, will be going into the shipyard for its big conversion work. I'm not keeping up on it so well. That may be happening actually right now. We especially want to pay tribute to dear brother Andrew, who's just gone home to be with the Lord. He's not been well for a number of years, and now he's completely healed. I think he was almost around 94 years of age. Close friend. We ministered together. I often referred to him in my messages when I said, many of you know Brother Andrew because he's God's smuggler, but today you have George Verwer, God's bungler, because I also tried to smuggle Bibles when I first came, learning Russian, living in Spain, and it was a complete fiasco, great failure on my part. Many of you have read, this is a chapter in my book, Drops from a Leaking Tap, but we took it out to print it on its own because it's one of the best summaries of those early days of OM and how the OM vision was really born because of that failure in the Soviet Union. So the leaflet's actually called Failure, Backdoor to Success. Be happy to send you a copy if you're interested. Today we're dealing with the great challenge of short-term missions. And of course, Brother Andrew was a long-term committed servant of the Lord. He was in some ways a short-term missionary and spent a good part of his life living in his home nation of the Netherlands. Before I get to that, however, I wanted to read something that just really grabbed me called Don't Quit. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, this is by John Greenleaf Whittier, very famous writer. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low, we know about that, and the debts are high, and you want to smile, but you have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't quit. Life is strange with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns. Many a failure comes about when he might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up, though. The pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. You never can tell just how close you are. It may be near when it seems so far. So stick to the fight. Your hardest hit. It's when things seem worse. You must not quit. For all the sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these. It might have been. Well, what a challenge. There are two other things I wanted to mention. One is that we don't send out these pocket calendars, pocket diaries, more known in the UK than in the USA, as much as we used to, because so many people don't use them. But if you do use these and you happen to be living in the UK or the USA, we can't ship them to other parts of the world. We'd be happy to give you one for 2023. I've been using this same kind of diary for decades. I couldn't really survive without it. And so I'm still offering them free, but not just sending them out so much with personal letters. I also wanted to refresh your memory about the greatest film opportunity I know anywhere in the world. Films that we used to pay 10, 15 pounds sterling to get a copy of the DVD. Now they're all available through Redeem TV. You just Google that and subscribe. It's all free. And the range, look at some of the films just listed on this leaflet. My own film is actually available there free. And the new film about C.T. Studd, there's Corrie ten Boom. I remember once Corrie ten Boom and I were together with Brother Andrew ministering there in the Netherlands. Well, the first few reasons why we need to give greater consideration to short-term missions actually came out in the UK Global Magazine. I love the magazine that OM UK produces. I call it UK Global. And some of you have had it from me in personal letters. But I'd like to just read, and for the tiny print, I have to put my glasses back on, what they said in their newsletter quite a few months ago. Number one, it gives God time and space to move. Short-term outreaches can be beautiful opportunities for God to work in and through you. Of course, God is God. He can work in any situation. But short-term outreaches push you out of your comfort zone, meaning you're compelled to trust him in ways you might have not done usually. It could be trusting him particularly for travel plans or spiritually to give you the right words to say through the Holy Spirit at a particular moment. As you witness in word and action, you also allow God to work through you. Offering to pray for someone or sitting and listening to them can create a space for people to encounter Jesus. Beautiful. Number two, it increases the capacity of long-term teams. Only ever send short-term teams to places where long-term teams are already established. This means that short-term teams can increase the capacity of existing ministries. For example, in Adizlak refugee camp in Siberia, short-term volunteers go to serve hot drinks, do laundry, chat to refugees, have tea in a tent run by OM. This frees up the long-term people to engage in more strategic, logistic, administrative work, and all kinds of other challenges. Number three, it impacts communities. Although you may only be in the community a few weeks or months, your presence there alongside the long-term team and the local church can still have a significant impact for God's kingdom. It might be a conversation that sows a seed. It might be an act of kindness that demonstrates God's love, or it could be leaving behind Bibles that are read by someone long after you're gone. And then number four, it impacts you. Short-term outreach can be humbling. It can be a catalyst for growing in your relationship with God. It can enrich you and help you understand, have a greater worldview. It can open your eyes to God's heart for people, giving you a greater sense of urgency for them to come and know him. I listed just three other reasons just to add to the list, and I'd like to share those with you. Number five, we gave you four. Here's number five. You can help reach more people, and you can help people come to Christ who become a witness in their own culture. Short term can bring long-term results. What do I mean by this? Maybe you go over to France for the summer, which used to be and still is one of the key short-term places where people from the UK go, just like from the States we would flood into Mexico. And if you win even one person to Christ, or you help a Christian come back to Jesus who gets really involved as an active disciple, then when you leave, you've left a permanent long-term witness. Now, he may end up going to some other country, but more likely he'll be living in France if that's the country you went to. I could say a lot more, and we've seen 65 years of it being proven that short-term witness, short-term outreach can lead to long-term results, especially, of course, when someone comes to Christ, like Doug Venezuela, who was running away from God, ended up on a ferry, I think in the mid-60s, coming to England, and the team on the ferry, together with those who met him in Bromley, helped him come to Jesus. And later he won many to Christ in the States, and then went as an outstanding missionary in one of the best churches. He had been reared as a kid, a military kid in Naples, so he knew the language. And when I went to Naples, he had one of the best churches, pastoring that church. What a story, long-term results from a short-term team. And then number 6, you can experience that can help you to be a mission mobilizer in the years to come. I'd really encourage you, if you possibly can, to find your old copy of this book, Out of the Comfort Zone, and look up the chapter, just that one chapter, How to Be a Mission Mobilizer. I just really feel many of us who are not in our original nation, for me it was Spain, then it was India, then it was Nepal, then it was the ship, and then I ended up here in the UK. For those of us that have sort of ended up back in our sort of home place, we need to realize that being a mission mobilizer, encouraging, recruiting, giving out information, even challenging people personally to have a short-term experience as you may have had. We've noticed that in the history of OM, the best recruiters are people who were with us. And I know that someone just went to Lagos Hope, whose brother just came back from Lagos Hope. It's exciting. And I hope you will be a mission mobilizer, and often going on a short-term outreach can help you get started. And then number 7, it's the best place to pray and seek God's mind about your future, especially the option of long-term missions. You're in an environment, prayer meetings, lots of information about missions. Generally, other missionaries, not just OM people, visit your team or visit the place where you're working, and it just helps you increase in your vision and increase in your praying. And you'll probably also get friends, people that you can put on your prayer list and pray for them the rest of your life. A lot of people don't realize, because COVID hit short-term missions very hard, that the door is now wide open. It's easy to get visas. There's hardly any travel restrictions. Each country is a little bit different. So the hour, especially this coming summer, for short-term missions, I believe, is back full force. Please consider it. Please share the opportunities, not just with OM, but other mission agencies, to be involved in short-term missions. I would only add that for me, the best short-term outreaches are when people have some preparation and training. We used to do it through books and tapes and then mini conferences. That doesn't always happen now. The book thing, of course, is one of the easier ways to get preparation and training, reading the right books. But any kind of small group activity, any orientation conference you can go to, even it's by way of Zoom, is really helpful. We tend to make mistakes as short-term missionaries. Unfortunately, long-termers make them as well, sometimes more costly. But we want to be committed to excellency. We don't really want people to go who don't have some spiritual preparation, some walk with Jesus, so they can be a blessing and a light, not a problem and a headache, as some have been, of course, in the past. The enemy, Satan, hates short-term and long-term missions. And so we're reminded of those verses. Satan is a roaring lion, seeketh whom he may devour. To go into short-term missions, read Ephesians 6. Make sure you have the armor of God on. God bless you. Would love to hear from you anytime about your short-term missionary experience. I think you all have my website, but there it is. God bless you. My email, that is.
Hallelujah.